Hello, I've been told by a number of my friends that I probably shouldn't be screwing around as much as I have been doing in some of these posts that I've been putting up. Uh, and I should be taking matters much more seriously. But the point is that I think we've lost our way in the woods of righteousness in a curious sense. And by that I'm speaking now of the larger community. And one of the um, concerns I have is that people have lost the sense of the legitimacy of their own experiences, identities, in a world of the turmoil of busyness, where everyone's expected to be busy, and everyone's expected to have a job, and everyone's expected to be playing in this game of survival, which is not a game of survival at all when it becomes too busy and misses the main points of the human experience. And I think that the rich and the poor alike are driven by uh, the worship of money rather than doing what we're all really properly intended to do, is be caretakers on the planet and live a leisurely caretaking style of life. And primarily that means maintenance. Primarily that means integration of the family or the community into the environment and becoming truly natural people on the land. And in this way, um, adopting a return to the land, I think there's a word for that, um, and this, of course, was the foundation of the joy that attached itself to many young people in the 60s when they realized, probably for the first time, as a result of their parents having brought them up with TV dinners, that they could in fact grow food. There's nothing more delightful than being able to grow food. On a balcony here, I've got a bean plant and potato plants growing in a tub. Whether I've discovered that one can live on a tub of soil or not, I don't know. But it's a very leisurely way of seeing nature replenish our lives. And it seems to me that the sustenance you get from plants you grow, and once you've achieved a certain breatharian yoga relationship with the surface chemistry, the amount of food that you actually need to sustain yourself is actually really quite small. However, that's no excuse for us tolerating as an overburden with food society, tolerating the starvation in other countries. Now, it seems to me that there's a new role for even a small province, well, hardly a small province, a province which is technically, at least with straight lines drawn by people who I suppose could fly airplanes. But anyway, now I think we have to adopt a triangulation of the landscape, and by doing so, centers of power, that is, where the roads cross, the crossroads happen, will now have more forms like this. And in doing so, then we'll redistribute our population as the scientific community would, and hopefully a happy and leisurely community would, on these new centers of focus of man in landscape. And these will be following an honorable settlement with natural peoples around the world and a return to understanding the nature of an organic relationship. And where there was no organic relationship between humankind uh, uh, previously, because the land was desert or arid or, which I guess is the same thing, or was there were people unavailable to look after it in a leisurely fashion. And man in landscape is the foundation of a planet of peace. So I'm preaching now for the leisure state. I think the evidence of people on the street is that people did at least hear the message that we are in a general strike condition, in a sense, because we are in a sense in a rebellion against what calls itself the Harper government, because clearly they've lost their way, their moral compass. They're proceeding down a street which is enormously dangerous. And as a province, I think we need to begin to disassociate ourselves, because it's time for people, as groups of people, however they're dynamically bounded by our conventional and confused methods of distribution, especially of land, because the territorial prerogative is the foundation. Busyness has no place in that. The Aboriginal people, hunters and gatherers, were well studied, and their requirements for their well-being was something like what was it, 2 hours a day or something? You know, just to, well, that's about what it takes to wash and groom ourselves, to prepare ourselves and drive to the office. That's busyness? That's not progress, that's insanity. We must begin to seriously think about the leisure state. What is it the rich really want? They want to be assured of their well-being. And what do they really want after that? They want to be assured that they will be not overwhelmed by a population over which they claim authority. Well, that's madness. That's absolute madness. It's the notion that everyone has to have a job. J-O-B? I'll have to get my biblical references straightened out with Mark Boyer. I'll have a conversation with him about what was the relationship of Job, or Job was it? I don't know where all that comes from, but I do know this, that the Protestant ethic, as an ethic, is very confused. You know, we're all in this together. We're all God's children. And as God's children, we have to begin to respect ourselves. And we should not allow ourselves to be enslaved by the confusions associated with the myth of money and the dirty tricks and blue meanness of a few greedy people who are only really seriously interested in ridding themselves of the fear that they won't have enough money to take care of all the various engagements. I once met a man who had, at that time, what was it, 500 million, I think he had at that time, some years ago. I don't know whether he's dead or alive or as a billionaire now, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you know, that he had a job and he was an anxious man. And you know, he had the same family problems that people have if they have children. Or the, you know, so you know, the money is a bane on rich and poor alike. And we can now, in British Columbia at least, bring about a renaissance in the leisure state. And we can address ourselves to honourable settlement with the Aboriginal people and recognize our roles on this land as carriers of important information for the survival on the landscape of the people, so that we can begin to re-ruralize our cities, so we can begin to clean up the water on our coast, so that we can begin to stop these lunatics who believe that passing bitumen around the world has something to do with the well-being of mother's skin. It has no virtue at all. Similarly, cracking the mother's skin, no virtue at all. And without virtue, there's no point in pursuing anything on this planet whatsoever. And certainly, for the purposes of simply adding to somebody's numbers in a bank account, is an insanity of an order that needs to be addressed. And we must address that collectively. Here in the province of British Columbia, there is an opportunity to do that. And I speak for that opportunity. We need to be moving towards a leisure state. We need to be moving towards a guaranteed annual income for need. We need to be moving towards removal of homelessness and people who are not being properly looked after. There are many, many volunteers who are willing, for a simple annual income of need, to be providing services to these people who desperately need our help. It's enough